You're a financial advisor in today's world. I can only imagine how tough your job really is every day. People have lost a lot of money in the market. Your clients have lost a lot of money in the market, and they're frustrated, they're fearful, they're mad, and they take it out on you. And I know that's got to be tough. And to make matters worse, it seems like every other day there's a story about fraud on Wall Street. And I know you know this week they had a story on insider trading, and your industry gets pummeled by the press, and I know that's got to drain you. Your jobs have so much pressure every day, day in and day out. And then there's me, this guy up here with goofy hair, and you're thinking, how in the hell can this guy help me deal with all the pressure that I face every day? Well, look, I can't do your job. I don't have any financial skills. I don't know why the market goes up and down. And I can't pick a stock like Mary Ann to save my life. But the one thing and the one skill I do have is that I help people be their best under pressure. And for the last 30 years, I worked with professional athletes, business executives, financial advisors, folks just like you. And the one thing I've learned, regardless of profession, regardless of person, is this. When I get you to find your prime emotional state, and I get you into your prime emotional state, you will be a superstar. And tonight, I'm going to show you how to harness the power of your prime emotional state. And the first step to this process is to be emotionally aware. I learned this super important lesson when I was 15. When I was 15, yeah, that's me, goofy hair. I think that's what you call a hair don't. Don't mind the short shorts, it was the 70s. I had a great life. I was on the tennis team, I had great grades, everything was great, and then my dad died. And I remember I went from this really good student to a terrible student. Something just changed inside me. And I remember getting mad at other students, yelling at teachers. And luckily, the vice principal cared, and he called me into his office and he said, "Greg, you're about to be expelled. You're in trouble. You need to see Dr. Carlson." And I was like, I don't want to see Dr. Carlson. I don't want to see a shrink. I didn't even know what a shrink was. I didn't want to see one. I didn't want to talk to one. But luckily, he insisted. My mother was sitting right there in the room, and he handed Dr. Carlson's card to my mother, and she took me to see Dr. Carlson the next day. Well, within a few moments, Dr. Carlson knew exactly what was blocking me. And he took out this pillow, and he said, "Greg, I want you to see this pillow, and I want you to pretend this pillow is your dad, and I want you to start hitting it." And I was like, I don't want to hit that pillow if it's my dad. But he said, no, just go with it. So I took the pillow, and I started hitting it, and then I started hitting harder, and I started hitting harder, and all of a sudden, my emotions just got out of whack and out of control, and I just hit it harder, and I just started ripping the hell out of that pillow, and I threw it on the ground, I stomped on it, and then I yelled out a painful scream. And that was the beginning. Because I know a lot of you have lost a parent when you were younger and it's painful. And maybe you repressed it like I had and it blocked you. But what was amazing was when Dr. Carlson allowed me to become aware of my emotions, it changed me. Because that was the start. Because when I went back to school, I was still mad and I was still sad that my dad died. But I changed. And I went back to that happy-go-lucky kid. And I got better grades, and it put me on the path because I became emotionally aware. And I remember thinking, I'm going to make it my mission to understand how people are successful. And I wanted to make it my mission to understand how people master their emotions and how successful people master their emotions. And so for the last 30 years, I've worked with the best people from all different fields, from sports, from business, from parenting, teaching. And what I've discovered is that all successful people follow what I call is the triad of greatness. And the triad has three parts. It's really simple. It's basic. The first part is the most successful people are aware, emotionally aware of their best state. They're emotionally aware of their prime emotional state. They're aware of the patterns that come up in every situation under pressure. And number two is they emotionally prepare themselves to be in this emotional state every time. They practice it and they practice it and they practice it, so that the third part is this. They make their prime emotional state their habit. And this is one of the oldest psychological principles on the book, and it's this. We go to our habits under pressure. So if you made your prime emotional state your habit, you're going to return to your best state when it really counts. And the best example I can give you, and I know you've heard this story before, and someone who exemplifies this triad to a T is Captain Sullenberger. You probably remember that story about Flight 1549 out of LaGuardia, and the birds hit the plane, and he landed the plane in the Hudson River. I know you've heard that story, but I don't believe you've heard the entire story. Because when the birds hit the engines, and the engines went out, all of a sudden Captain Sullenberger's heart rate was out of control, his eyesight went in and out, and his thoughts crept back to his young daughter who was having a birthday party that Saturday. And he said, no. Took some deep breaths. I have to remain calm and focused. I have to remain calm and focused to make the right decision. And he made the right decision, and he landed the plane in the Hudson River. And everybody called that the miracle flight of 1549. Well, let me tell you right now, there was nothing miraculous about this flight, because for the last 20 years, Captain Sullenberger had prepared for this one particular moment. In fact, he listened to the recorders of crashed planes, and he listened to the erroneous decisions that those pilots made, and he realized that the pilots made the wrong decision because their emotions were out of whack. And that's why they crashed those planes. And so he actually created a U.S. Air Safety course in which he trained thousands of pilots to remain cool, calm, and collected. And he also realized his best state was to be calm, cool, and collected under pressure. So he trained himself for thousands of hours to remain cool, calm, and collected. And so when he had to be cool, calm, and collected under intense pressure, he fell back into his best state. He made the right decision, and he saved all those lives. And he was using the triad of greatness. He was actually using my methodology, and the methodology that I coach business executives, financial advisors, and I want tonight to show you how I use this methodology specifically so that you can be your best under pressure, so that you will handle the pressure, because I know you might never land a plane in the Hudson River, and you might never have those horrific conditions happen to you, but pressure is relative. And your lives are immensely pressure-packed. And you need to return to your best state time and time again for you to be at your best. And so for me to show you my methodology, I think the best way to do it is to bring someone on stage. So I'm going to bring Jeff George. Come on down.
The next contestant.
And just a quick aside, I coached Jeff this year, and what did you think?
It was tremendously impactful. So I went through one of those 4-week-long Merrill Lynch 1 hour a week telephone conference calls, and it really was impactful. I mean, I think I had a pretty good year in the business, and a lot of it was because of habits and just things learned from Dr. Steingberg. So
okay, so that great PR. Thank you.
Thank you. $10, thanks.
So the methodology is simple. And like Gregg said, get back to the basics. Like Bill said, get back to the basics. This is really getting back to the basics of emotional toughness. And what differentiates those people that are successful from those people who aren't has to do with the basics of emotional toughness. And so the first step is emotional awareness. And what I do with all the clients is I say, you have to recall your best state versus your worst state and know the difference. And let me also say that this is very interactive. So even though I'm doing it with Jeff, I want you to think about what we're doing up here and relate it back to your life. Because the more interactive you use it, the better it's going to work for you once you leave this room. So Jeff, let's talk about your best state, your prime emotional state. So just describe to everybody one of your best states.
So I think kind of my best state, if I look back on my life, it was probably not as a financial advisor. It was my former career as a medevac pilot in the Army. And if I really specifically pinpointed, an event, one of the things that in going through this process I discovered was there was a mission in which I was a pilot in command on. And like summer 1999, I was in Korea, called to fly a mission about 3 o'clock in the morning. So waking up in the middle of the night, 10 minutes off the ground, in a very bad weather situation. There was 40 soldiers on top of a mountain that were involved in a mudslide event, and they kind of slid down the mountain. And so we had, ultimately we rescued about 22 people off the side of this mountain. The interesting thing is that we could not land on the top of the mountain, so we had to land at the bottom of the mountain, and I had to get out with my medic and go up the mountain on foot and carry people and work people coming down. So that was what I look back on my life as one of my sort of prime states of, like Captain Stoltenberg, have to make a decision that you want to get to the top of the mountain, but you can't. So you have to make the decision to land at the bottom. And hike your way
Now,
up.
we did this when we talked a couple months ago, but is that a cool story or what? I mean, that is an amazing story. When he told me that, I was like, wow, this is great. And to capture your prime emotional state, so think about a time when you're at your best. It's real important to do that. Think about a time when you're at your best. Now think about the emotions associated with that time. And the way you do that is there's 5 levels. There's confidence, there's energy, there's enjoyment, there's nervousness, and there's reacting or thinking. So Jeff, during that time, what was your confidence? High, medium, or low?
Extremely high.
Extremely high. What was your enjoyment? High, medium, or low?
High.
High. Okay. What was your energy level? High, medium, or low?
Extremely high.
Extremely high. What was your nervousness? Were you calm or nervous?
No nerves at all.
Okay. And were you thinking or reacting?
In somewhat of a middle, but
Okay,
mostly thinking and
all right,
control.
in the middle. Okay. So think about you. Same thing. What were the 5 levels? And if you capture those 5 levels, you'll get a kind of a handle more on your emotions related to your best state. Okay. So let's flip that over. Now take a time where you just choked. You were the worst, and you just flubbed it. You dropped the pass. Give us a time when you were at your worst.
So I can't think of a specific event, but I look at my freshman year of college. I think I had the typical freshman year experience. I moved away from home. I had the girlfriend back in New Jersey. I was in Florida. Girlfriend dumped me at a school full of engineers and super pilot geeks. And I was an Eagles fan and wanted to watch, sports on the weekend, and they were watching Wings or some Discovery Channel crap that I didn't want to see. But that whole sort of ambience of my freshman year of college, that goes all the stuff that normal freshmen go through, and just not being in a place where I felt at home.
Okay, so let's contrast. Now, going back to those 5 levels, what was your confidence during that time?
Very little.
Very low. What was your energy?
Super low.
Super low. What was your enjoyment?
None.
None. What was your nervousness?
Fairly high.
And what was were you thinking or reacting?
Mostly thinking and being miserable.
Okay. All right. So here's kind of the secret to this piece of the pie. You take those 2 and you say, what is the one main difference between those 2 and why? So Jeff, what would be the one main difference between your best state and your worst state between those 5 levels?
I think the biggest difference is just the enjoyment, and that I was feeling fulfilled by helping people.
Okay, and that's the why. The enjoyment related to when you were in the war, you had the fulfillment, and when you were as a freshman in college, you had no fulfillment and no purpose.
Yeah.
So the why is real important. So think about your lives. Think about a time when you're at your best, time when you're at your worst. What is one main difference? Because that is hugely important, which is going to relate to the next step. And then figure out why. What made that difference? Why is that difference between those 2? And so we're going to move on to the next step, which is you now personalize your greatness. And what I mean by that is you create buzzwords related to that best state, you create a behavior trigger, and then you create images. And hopefully it captures the feelings of why. So Jeff, what would be an emotional buzzword that related to your prime emotional state?
Hero.
Hero, okay. Because when you were doing that, you felt like a hero.
Yeah, I think you look back on that event and say for that instant I was a hero, but when I think about getting myself in that state, I want to be like a hero would be.
Right, and a hero is fulfilling. It made you have a purpose, right? So it impacted the why. Okay, the second part is, when you feel like a hero, what kind of actions do you do? What kind of like behaviors might you do? Like shoulder up, chin up?
Yeah, all those, I guess I get that image of a hero with a proud stance and his chin up and his, just sort of being strong. Okay,
and what kind of, what might be an image for you?
I guess for me, again, being a veteran, I think of a soldier, and I think of that that hero mentality of a soldier environment.
Okay, so you haven't, but do you have an image, a specific image of in your mind related to that hero event?
Of that event, or
any event related to that feeling?
I don't think of myself, I guess, in that context, but I think of maybe someone else in that context of being that hero in a dangerous environment or something where they still have the confidence to do the things that they're supposed to do.
And maybe, once we do this, you might even gather a picture of someone that exemplifies a hero, which you could use. Now think about you. At the very least tonight, I want you to get an emotional buzzword related to your best state, because that's going to be hugely important. And I'll just give you an example for me. When I speak, I've choked a lot of times. And I've done really well, and I've done a lot of kickoffs for Merrill Lynch, and I've discovered when I do my worst, I feel like I'm proving myself. Like I'm up here trying to prove what a great speaker I am, a person about mental toughness. And when I'm at my best, I feel like I'm just sharing my knowledge, because sharing's a joyous state. And so my emotional buzzword that I use before I walk up on stage is I say to myself, just share. Just share. And it puts me into a calm, joyous state. Because that relates to the third point of this principle, of this methodology. And it is, you prime yourself for greatness with primers. Let me describe what primers are. They're these cognitive psychology term, but primers are words, behaviors, or images that push our emotions in a certain direction. So we're going to do a fun experiment right now to prove my point. So I'm going to make this group A, and this is group B on this side. So I want group B to kind of turn away from the screen, because I'm going to put something on the screen. So don't look at the screen, okay? Just group A, look at the screen. All right, look at the screen. Okay? All right, don't say what that is, okay? Now, you, group A, turn away from the screen. Group B, look at the screen now. Okay? All right? All right. Now everybody look at the screen. Okay? Group A, what word comes to mind? Soup. What group? Well, how many people think soup? Raise your hand. All right, majority of you. You got to prove my point. How many people over here thought of soap? Okay, majority, right? Of course, there's some outliers, and we have to throw you out. But the idea here is, I just primed you. I primed you with a word to push you in a certain direction. Let's do another one. I want group A, you all have to smile. Everybody smile, okay? Just go with me, just smile. Group B, you have to scowl. Got to get that little wrinkle right here. Just go with me, just scowl, okay? I'm going to show you a picture. Bill, you're doing a great job.
Hard time.
Bill is he's a great scholar.
Move over here, Paul.
Okay. I'm going to show you this cartoon. It's one of my favorite, Gary Larson's, and it says, the real reason why dinosaurs became extinct. What we discovered, this is an actual true experiment, is that people that smiled thought this was funnier. If we had a laugh-o-meter, they actually found this was funnier than people that scowled when they saw this. Okay, one more. Group A, I show you these pictures of older adults, okay, series of pictures. Group B, I show you this series of pictures of young adults, okay? And then, here's the true experiment. I have you walk down the hall 50 yards away, and I measure the time it takes you to walk. Group A, who saw older adults, will actually walk slower. Group B walked faster. And when we did these experiments, the students were like, no way did those pictures affect my walking speed? Yes, they did. Because primers work subconsciously, below our conscious level. You've been succumbed to primers all your life. Advertisers have been using that on us for hundreds of years. They've done millions of dollars of research to figure out the right words and the right images to push you in the right direction. So what I say tonight is take control of your primers, be the master of your primers, and you're going to push yourself in the right direction. And that relates to how you can use these words, behaviors, and images. I just showed you how words, behaviors, and images are used as primers. Well, when you personalize your greatness, you had an emotional buzzword, you had a behavior trigger, which we talked about with Jeff, and we had an image for him. So what he could do is he could prime himself in a routine. So before, Jeff, you would maybe talk with a difficult client, or maybe you would do a seminar. You would use your buzzword. You would say your buzzword. You can get your chin up. You can have an image of a hero. And that is going to push him and push his emotions in the right direction. Think about you. It's a long night, right? You're probably tired. And I'm sure you've had nights like this before where you had to meet clients and you had to meet a couple and you're going to talk about their finances and you don't want to be there. Well, if you had the right routine that pushed you in the right direction, you would have the right emotions to be at your best. Because I can guarantee you this, it's not about mental toughness. You know the nuts and bolts of your business. You know what to say. You know how the market works. The difference between you being your best is having the right emotions at the right time. And so this prime your routine is one of the best ways to push your emotions in the right direction for business. But let me say this. This methodology is not about business. It's about life. And it's so powerful. About a year ago, Joel Osteen came to Nashville. And if you're not familiar with Joel, he's this famous televangelist, right? He's on TV, he speaks in Houston, and he's got a great message, and my wife really likes him. And I think he's got a great message, but he has a huge, huge following. And being a professional speaker, I wanted to see what his charisma was all about. So I went to see him with my wife. Well, I saw right away, it was his mother. His mother got on stage, and she's 5'0". She's got this great ball of energy, and she starts talking, and she said, 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. And the doctor gave me 6 months to live. So she started doing chemo, and her hair started falling out, and she started feeling sick. And she said, I didn't want to feel sick. I didn't want to look sick. So what I did was I took these pictures of my best, healthiest state, and I put them all over the house. And every day, 10 times a day, 20 times a day, I would point at these pictures and say, you are healthy, you are healthy, you are healthy. And she said, today, I'm cancer-free. My cancer's been in remission ever since. Now, of course, there was a lot of things that contributed to her cancer. But I do believe the methodology that I'm pointing out tonight had a huge impact in pushing her emotions in the right direction to be her healthiest. And so the methodology that I'm describing tonight is about life. It's not just about you in business. It's about using this methodology in everything you do to be your best in everything that you do in every situation. And I want to end tonight by telling you one of my favorite proverbs, which I know you've heard. And it's, when you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. When you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. Well, hopefully I didn't just throw you a fish tonight. That wasn't my goal. My vision tonight was to give you the strategies and techniques and tools so that you could coach yourself to greatness, so that when the trials and the tribulations and all the things that drain you and distract you and cause all the pressure in your life, you'll be able to coach yourself to be at your best when it really counts in every situation for the rest of your life. So I thank you for your time and your energy. Enjoy the book.